Join us now to talk more about the U.S. relationship with India. Virginia Senator Mark Warner, who co-chairs the Senate India Caucus and is the chairman of the Select Committee on Intelligence. You got your tux shirt all pressed? I mean, is it back from the cleaner?
I'm all pressed and ready to go. I am all pressed and ready to go tonight.
You have someone, you go on stag? You need a date? I mean, I've never been.
I've actually bringing my wife. She doesn't go to many of these things, so we're looking forward to a good time. Now, the fact that I live 20 minutes from the Hill also gives me an advantage. I get to actually go to my real home after the dinner's over.
Senator, it seems like the perfect country for us in terms of, we both have similar interests in terms of containing China. They've got, I think India, the population is going to surpass China or has surpassed China. Capitalist. Democracy. If we could move everything we do in China to India immediately, it'd probably be something we'd try to do. Is there any downside to that strategy that you see?
Well, first of all, I was just in India in February with 9 senators. I've been to India many times. India was always an aspiring nation. I think India's time on the world stage has arrived. I've never seen a country, or I've never been to India when it was as so optimistic, from the government leaders to the business leaders to folks on the street. So I think that's positive. India has also moved off the center on things like China. They recognize China expansionism is a challenge in that whole region, not just the South China Sea, but as some of the border disputes they have with China. I think it's really important, this meeting with the president, we've been working on a number of these items to strengthen defense ties, these announcements that are going to be made. One of the reasons why India's been on the fence, and I've been frustrated with them on this in terms of Putin and Ukraine, is because they've got a 50-year relationship with Russia as a dependable arms supplier. If we want to get India off the fence on Russia, we've got to be willing to sell more arms to India within appropriate controls. That's why John Cornyn and I have put forward a suggestion, a bill that would say let's move India to a higher level in terms of defense cooperation, in terms of being able to sell arms. So I think this is one of the most critical relationships the United States has for this century. And part of that's got to still go in more trade. We're only at about $100 billion at this point. We ought to have a goal to move that up to $500 billion. I think this visit will take us in that direction.
We have been talking about, we referenced China just now, but we've been talking per se about China. I just want to get your opinion on this. We had Senator Rick Scott on, who points out that the Taiwan issue seems to be, maybe, are we getting closer, in your view, to where we have to face something like that? And what do our multinationals do? What should they be doing now? Because if it did happen, you saw what happened with Ukraine, they just had to cut ties, basically. Is that on the horizon? Should it be done preemptively?
I don't think it should be done preemptively. And I don't think we should fully decouple with China. There are things like climate change and others we've got to work with them. And I also think it's really important as a policymaker to make clear my beef is with the Communist Party and Xi Jinping's authoritarian leadership. It's not with the Chinese people. It's not with the Chinese Americans or Chinese diaspora anywhere in the world. China's a great nation. One of the things I've been doing, though, on a bipartisan basis since 2017, have been having what I call classified roadshows, where we bring in business leaders and share with them in more detail than we can publicly the challenge that China presents. $500 billion of intellectual property theft a year, the fact that China is literally competing, and in certain areas, I used to be in the wireless industry, investing at a greater level than we are in a series of technology domains, telecommunications, quantum computing, artificial intelligence. Everybody's buzz about AI. China is putting resources in an amazing area there. And I think American companies are starting to realize that this hypothetical, they got to have a plan B. I hope there's not military action around Taiwan, but I can tell you, you blockade Taiwan for 2 weeks and you slow the supply or stop the supply of chips, we got an economic challenge. If Xi decides to send offensive weapons to Putin, there will be actions. So I do think this idea of less reliance on China, and let me be the first to acknowledge, this is a different position than I had 20 years ago when I was governor of Virginia, when I led trade missions to China. The whole notion of the more you bring China into the WTO and the world order, the more they're going to play by basic business capitalism rules. That just didn't prove to be the case, particularly since President Xi really has tightened the screws starting about 2017.
Senator, back to India, we have the same hopes there. And it's, on face value, a liberal democracy. But as you know it well, as the co-chair of the India caucus, there are some people that think it's been backsliding under Prime Minister Modi in terms of, the press, freedom of the press, elections, some human rights. Do you have concerns there?
Listen, I think we're at the stage of an honest relationship. Those of us who've spent a lot of time investing in this relationship to share concerns. Matter of fact, I shared, and even a semi-public way at the U.S. India Business Council about a week ago. I think some of the Indians could point out, hey, America, you got some challenges with your own democracy. Look at what happened on January 6th. So I think as friends, we ought to share these concerns. But I do believe the upside of this relationship across not only kind of geopolitical, not only defense ties, the Quad is an important step forward, but also, frankly, people to people. This relationship is made stronger by the 4 million Indian Americans who are such a vibrant part of American life. They build that people-to-people relationship in a way that we have with very few other countries around the world. So I am long on India. Will there be bumps? Yes. But this is a relationship worth investing in.